Chapter 8 All Except for Freedom. Don't look back, Drake said. How are you okay with this? Maya asked him, distressed. Who says I am? You may not know it, but this is not the first time I had to make decisions like these. Drake, Julia said as they made it back to the helicopter. Maya closed the hatch behind her. Is everyone all right? Maya asked. Darren reunited with his daughter, glad to see she was safe. Everyone's here. We're all okay, Calypso said. Where is Arian? Drake asked. Darren pointed with his head and said, Right there. We asked him if he could find you and pick you up. Seems like it wasn't necessary, though. Arian landed right next to the helicopter and started speaking to Drake. I searched the battlefield, but I must have passed you. It's all right, Drake replied. Glad to see you're back, Arian said. So where were we heading again? Lenny asked. New York, Drake answered. All right, let's hop on, everybody, the pilot said. As they made their way to the helicopter and the children to their creatures, Drake noticed Julia's arm was wrapped in cloth and a part of it was colored red with blood. It's nothing, she said as Drake noticed her wounded arm and looked at her worried. They mounted and lifted off. After another tiring flight and the way to the other side of America, they could finally land. Along the way, they noticed the havoc the monsters had caused and the damage they had done to the land. And there were still monsters, of which most turned around and followed wherever Drake was going. Luckily, America's military was no joke, but as long as the portal remained open, it would never end. After having landed on an actual helicopter platform at a helicopter rental somewhere in the city, they ended up in the middle of the battlefield. No time to relax, as the danger was everywhere. They were still a few kilometers away from the Statue of Liberty, but they couldn't have landed anywhere closer and still be safe. And even at the spot, they were already attacked by a crazed troll. Arian, Sapphira, Hank, go ahead without us and help the others, Drake commanded them. The three flew into the air and headed for the statue in the distance. Drake, why don't we go with them? Haru asked. They can't carry everyone, and we have to stick together. You've seen what is ahead? We've never faced something that big. We stand strongest together. The troll at the end of the street was still closing in. Julia prepared an arrow and hit her mark. As the troll fell to the ground, a whole group of monsters came their way. Run! The pilot shouted. I'll handle this. The pilot entered his helicopter and grabbed something big, at first hidden underneath his seat. You have a bazooka? Haru said, surprised. How did you get a bazooka? Don't worry, I have a license. Haha. The pilot inserted a rocket into the bazooka and aimed for the herd coming their way. He shot and was blown backwards. He missed the herd, but the rocket hit the wall of a building next to them, causing a huge bang and making bricks and rubble come down, flattening the herd. Oops, hope they got insurance, the pilot said nonchalantly. What are you waiting for? Go! Thanks, Doug, Maya said. As everyone started running, they suddenly felt a bit stupid because they realized they never knew the name of the pilot except for Lawrence, who thought he did. I thought his name was Pilot. Doug watched them run towards the battlefield, but he was startled by sudden sounds coming from behind him. He turned around and saw another herd coming his way. Doug was unable to do much as he was about to be overrun, so he followed the others. The monsters came after him, demolishing his helicopter in the process. Doug watched his greatest love get destroyed. No, he said, saddened. Doug knew he had to go, and eventually reunited with the others. When Maya noticed he joined again and looked at what had happened to his helicopter, she really felt bad for him. I'm sorry. After a while, they made it to a more crowded place. It was time to fight their way through. In the distance, they could see the dragon, Pegasus, and the hippogriff aid the people in the fight. They were left alone as they were able to prove themselves as the humans' allies. No one questioned the appearance of them or anything those days. The others kept on running and fighting, and they were doing well until a horrid cave troll blocked them from going any further. The troll came jumping down from a roof, breaking the tiles underneath its feet. It barely fit through the alleyway they were in, but because of its size, no one could pass. As they made their way backwards, Chop noticed a ladder above their heads, leading to outside stairs, which was ironic as he was one of the smallest, yet noticed the ladder above them. Up there, Chop called out. Darren jumped and grasped the ladder. His weight made the ladder slide down and everyone could reach it now. He helped everyone on the ladder and everyone started climbing. Julia was trying to hold the troll back by shooting arrows, but unlike the previous troll, this one's skin was much thicker. Julia, Drake shouted. You won't make it! Lawrence and Lenny thought the same thing, so they remained on the ground. They headed for the troll and snuck underneath its legs. The dwarves were the only ones who could do that. They managed to distract the troll. Go, we'll meet you at the statue, Lawrence shouted. Julia decided to follow Drake and the others now that the troll was distracted. Everyone climbed to the roof. When they were there, they looked down on Lawrence, Lenny, and the troll. They need help, Duzel said. You go on ahead, we'll be right behind you, Chop said. Drake nodded and they ran over the rooftops. Ready? Chop asked. Of course, my friend, Duzel replied. They jumped off the building and landed on the troll's shoulders. After they were launched off, the 4 dwarves took on the cave troll. Meanwhile at the others. Wait, Haru said, who walked up front. They were so close to the statue, they could see it, but the most dangerous part of the battlefield had yet to be crossed. We need a plan to get through this. Allow me, Calypso said. Calypso came forth and moved her hands into horizontal circles. She summoned the water from the shore at the other side of the battlefield towards her, and with it, she pushed all the monsters aside and made a pathway. Unfortunately, some of the humans were pushed aside as well. Follow me. Everyone started following her through a tunnel, of which the walls were made of water. Monsters were trying to get in, but Calypso was able to keep pushing them back. It took a while to get to the other side, but eventually they finally reached the shore. What they had forgotten was that the statue was positioned on an island. Calypso changed the water in front of them into ice, and that way they could cross the water and get to the island. And eventually, there it was, the Statue of Liberty. And the portal was right in front of them, at the foot of the statue. It was quite small, and they wondered how most of the larger creatures could ever fit through it. The easiest explanation that popped up in their minds was that the portal adjusted its size for every creature, which in fact was true. As they kept looking around for something notable, all they could see was monsters passing through the portal. Drake wondered if the defender had already passed and started looking towards the horizon. He watched the quiet sea until waves started forming, and his speculations were right, as something did appear. The ocean's surface was penetrated by something enormous. A monstrous tentacle appeared from the water. It can't be, Drake said, shocked and terrified. Multiple tentacles appeared and started casting wreckage to the island. After 8 tentacles, an octopus head rose above the water. The Kraken! A creature with a size that came close to Gygas appeared before them. An unstoppable monster of great destructive force proved to be their next challenge. How the hell? Haru said. We have to kill that? Julia said, afraid. How on earth are we going to do that? Maya asked. Drake stared at the monster and only knew to say one thing. Not. Drake backed off. Run! They followed Drake back to the battlefield. They crossed the bridge of ice and joined up with Arian, Sapphire and Hank, who were still aiding the fight. The people had gotten a glimpse of the monster, and most started running away, deeming fighting useless. The Kraken furiously rained down destruction with its massive tentacles. The ground cracked upon every impact. We have to at least come up with something, Maya said. Doug, do you still have one of those rockets lying around? Drake asked as a shot in the dark. Yes, I do, at the helicopter, he answered. Can you get it? Perhaps the dwarves can help you if you run into them along the way. Copied, I'll be right back. Good luck, Doug, Maya said. The pilot ran through the battlefield, dodging everyone and everything. He ran back to where they came from. As he had hoped, he ran into the dwarves. They had already finished off the cave troll and decided to help him. The others were busy fighting off the monsters while dodging the tentacles of the Kraken. They had to deal with Makai, trolls, giant spiders, deadly ravens and much more, and the Kraken not to forget. The same monsters kept crawling out of the portal and swimming towards the people. The waves of monsters never ended. Meanwhile at Doug and the dwarves. We're almost there, Doug said after they stepped over the dead cave troll. It has to be right here. Before they went around the corner, they heard a new sound, rattling. As they looked around the corner at the broken helicopter, a rattlesnake was guarding it. And of course, it had to be 10 times as big as a normal rattlesnake. Oh, well, that's a first, Duzel said anxiously. The rattlesnake heard them and came directly at them. Duzel grabbed his discus, but the raptor was clever and with his teeth took the discus away from him. The snake bit Duzel's weapon into 2 pieces as it looked at him with its red eyes. I'll pay you back for that, you stupid reptile. Split up, Chop commanded. Everyone went a different way. The snake decided to go after Lawrence and Duzel. They ran around the helicopter as they kept being chased. Chop threw his axe, but the snake dodged it with ease. Lawrence and Duzel started luring the snake away from the helicopter so the pilot could look for a rocket. I see it, Doug shouted as he found a rocket under the rubble. He crawled through the rubble that was once his precious helicopter to try and reach for the rocket. But as he did, he suddenly faced the bloodshot eyes of the rattlesnake. The snake wanted to attack, but an axe blocked it from going any further. The others started distracting the snake again as Doug continued reaching for the rocket. Doug managed to get his fingers on the rocket, grabbing it and escaping the helicopter again. Over here, he shouted. He put the rocket into his bazooka, waited until the snake would turn to him, and fired. There was a giant explosion that blew both Doug and the dwarves backwards. A dust cloud had formed, which slowly disappeared. After it did, they saw bits and pieces of the snake lying on the ground. Don't worry, Doug said. There's 3 more. Meanwhile at the others. What's taking them so long? Harry said, annoyed. I don't know, but they really have to hurry up, Drake replied. Shortly after, the others finally arrived. We're here, Chop said. 3, even better, Drake said at the side of the rockets the dwarves were carrying. Is that a kraken? Lenny said, shocked. That's supposed to be a legend. Shall I? The pilot proposed. Yes, aim for its head, Drake said. You got it. The pilot loaded the bazooka with a rocket and aimed. He shot and a rocket flew towards the kraken, but the kraken defended itself by blocking the rocket with one of its tentacles. The tentacle got wounded, which made the kraken unable to use it to deliver blows. And again, Doug said as he loaded up the next rocket. He shot another one, destroying another tentacle. Doug loaded his last rocket. Clever squid. Wait, Drake interrupted. Different plan. We only have one left. Drake took the bazooka and almost fell to the ground because of its weight. Bloody hell. He took the rocket as well and could barely lift both objects. Drake struggled as he made his way to the edge of the water. Julia decided to follow him. Drake, she spoke. I'm going with you. But no word. It's my choice. Fine. Drake handed Julia the rocket. When they made it to the shore, Julia wondered what Drake's plan really was. What now? She asked. What's the plan? I know it sounds crazy, Drake started. It always does, Julia said. Its weak spot is anywhere where the tentacles cannot reach. You mean nowhere? Except for the inside. That's not just crazy, that's lunatic, Julia said. That's all I can come up with, and probably our only option. I assume we're attacking from the inside, Calypso said, who joined up. Can you get us there? Drake asked. Alright, but be careful. Calypso raised her arms and moved 2 streams of water towards the 2. Brace yourself. They were swallowed by the water with their upper bodies sticking out. They were maneuvered through swinging tentacles. This is preposterous. The kraken opened its horrid hole of a mouth. It had over 1,000 teeth, all scattered across the walls of its throat. Do it, Drake shouted. Calypso had her doubts, but she moved them towards the kraken and they were accepted out of free will. Dear Haven, stand by them, Calypso said. But the teeth proposed a problem. We're not going to make it, Drake said. And at that moment, a rocket flew past their heads. It managed to destroy the beast's teeth. Well, partially. But it was enough for them to get through safely. The rocket was shot by a soldier, one of many that arrived as backup. They managed to make the way in for Drake and Julia safer, and before the kraken became furious and decided to kill Drake and Julia with its tentacles, Calypso managed to get them inside. Inside the kraken, Drake and Julia were falling down its throat, before the kraken could chew them, which wasn't necessary anyhow. Though with what they were about to do, perhaps it would have been for the best. As the kraken's mouth closed, it became dark. After falling for a short amount of time, they hit something that stopped their fall. It hurt at first, but it wasn't lethal. They both rose up, but had lost each other. Drake? Yes? Oh, good. Where are you? Over here. Over where? I can't see a thing. Drake created light by summoning a ball of fire that hovered over the palm of his hand. Oh, there you are. Hey, Drake replied nonchalantly. Did you expect its insides to look like this? Julia asked. Not exactly, no. The stomach of the kraken was filled with ships, construction objects, cloth, and even bodies drifting up top of the stomach acid. Good lord. Drake dropped the bazooka somewhere, but Julia was still holding the rocket. Glad to see the rocket survive the fall. The rocket? And what about me? If the rocket hit the ground, you'd be gone too. Oh yeah, you've got a point there. Say, where's that bazooka of yours? I'm afraid I dropped it. As Drake looked over the edge, he noticed where they ended up. They landed on shipwrecks that were stuck in the side of the monster's insides. When he looked down at everything drifting on top of the stomach acid, he saw the bazooka on a ship that had not yet been digested. How does this creature digest all that? Julia wondered. Beats me, Drake replied. Drake started to try to climb down, to get the bazooka. Hold up, Julia said. I'm closer to it. Let me get it. You sure? I'll be fine. I know you will. Just be careful. You know me. Carefully, Julia made her way down. Before she could jump onto the ship with a bazooka on it, the kraken started moving more than before. Julia started losing her balance and fell backwards, but managed to hold on just in time. Julia! Drake shouted out of concern. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Julia acted as if nothing happened and tried to get back up. When she got back up, she was able to jump onto the ship at the bottom. She reached for the weapon and collected all her strength to throw it upwards, towards Drake. Drake leaned over the edge and caught it with his arms. The flame was gone now, so Drake summoned it again so that Julia could make her way to safety. Julia followed by climbing back up onto a different shipwreck that wasn't so close to being digested. Drake inserted the rocket into the bazooka and aimed for the beast's flesh. This better tickle! Drake shot and was pushed backwards, tripping and falling over the edge. He too managed to grab a hold of something in time, while an explosion formed inside of the monster. Drake, Julia shouted out of concern, turning the tables. I should have known, Drake said, feeling stupid. He tried to get back up. Well, that was clever, Drake said sarcastically. Drake, we might want to hold on to something. Everything started shaking. They could hear the kraken make a horrifying sound. Only then they noticed the hole the blast had made. Water was getting in, filling up the stomach of the beast. Suddenly, they could hear more explosions. They looked at where they came from and noticed the kraken was receiving several hits higher up. They were aiming for its head, while Drake and Julia were still stuck. Idiots, Drake shouted angrily. What did you think? Big monster. What do they care if we die? We had this. Drake looked around with a worried expression. He was clueless about what to do. We're doomed. No, we can make it. How? We wait, Julia said. Before anyone said anything else, Julia could feel the water get to her feet. The water kept rising. Julia, Drake said, scared before the water got to her shoulders. And when the water swallowed her, she signed Drake to wait. They had to be patient. When the water got to Drake as well and filled up the entire kraken, Julia signed him to follow her. She pointed at the hole they made. They started swimming towards it, and because the kraken was completely filled with water by then, there was no pressure keeping them from moving anymore. Now that they could swim freely, they still had to be quick. At least the monster didn't move anymore, but getting to the hole was difficult. When they did, they were in the open sea. Drake and Julia looked at each other in fear. They were unsure if they could make it to the surface in time. As they exited the kraken and looked up, they were deeper than they thought. Drake startled as he made the mistake to look behind him, noticing the gigantic body of the kraken, which was in fact still sinking, and that way the head of the beast hit the ocean floor and two red eyes stared right at Drake. He continued trying to focus on heading for air. Julia eventually managed to get to the surface in time, gasping for air, but Drake started stressing as he was almost sure he wouldn't make it. He could see the sun in the distance, wrinkling past the ocean layer. Drake was almost out of air and felt like he was passing out. Suddenly, Julia came back and grabbed a hold of him. She gave him a push and Drake made it up in time, becoming able to breathe again before things turned dark. Drake started coughing and getting back enough air took many seconds. Julia came back up and breathed the air in again as well. Did we do it? Drake asked, bewildered. In the nick, Julia replied. They were close to the land. They swam back to shore and moved away from the sea. The others awaited them at the shore. I knew you'd do it, Chop said. Good job, you two, Darren said. It became silent. The fight was getting to a close, now that the portal disappeared. Arian, Sapphira, Hank, and the army were the backup the city needed. Without thinking about it twice, they headed for the battlefield to help, however they could. When everyone separated from the four children, Julia pointed something out. I could see it clearly, Drake. What's that? You were terrified. Water isn't exactly your thing, is it? I noticed it too, back on Pi C. It's true. I don't do well with water. It's just something happened when I was younger. Howard looked at Drake with a sad look. He already knew what Drake was about to say. Just a little accident. I remember someone reaching out for me when I was in grave danger. It was Haru, in fact, the day we became friends. Julia and Maya looked at Haru with a surprised look. They realized there was more to Haru than they thought. Ever since Pi C, I don't do well with big sea monsters either, Drake explained, yet while chuckling a bit. It was quiet for a while. Anyhow, we did it, didn't we? The Kraken is defeated. The portal gone, the battle is being won, and we're all okay. Haven't heard this much positivity from you in a while, Julia said. Haha, perhaps that's true. But you know what I realized? If we are to follow that riddle, I think we're getting close to the end. New York was freed within an hour. A difficult battle had turned into a one-sided battle, and the people won. After it was won, it was dead quiet for the first time in New York since a very long time. But the city was finally a city with actual freedom again. The Statue of Liberty was once again a fitting symbol for New York. After the battle, Drake sat on a bench, with his elbows on his knees and his hands supporting his head. They managed to defeat their most dangerous opponent so far, but what was awaiting them wasn't quite easy. What portals were yet to be closed? What creatures could form their demise? All those questions would soon be answered. So now that all that water is out of the way, and we're all dried up, and we're most likely going to get a cold, shall we pray for a warmer place up next? Julia requested. She should have been careful what she wished for.